So hopefully you got a bit of sort of what we are and what we do at Matador. Just to give you a little more background, I founded the company in 2006 with $11,000. We had no traffic, no revenue, no brand, and really we've built that from 0 to 2 million unique visitors a month and about 250,000 people following us on RSS and across the social media channels in about 6 years. So although social media was critical for that, really it was that we had a content strategy. We figured out how to create content on the web that people love to share. So I'm going to really drive that point home that no matter how much time you spend on social media, what has to come first is content, because content is going to drive your success on social. Where we are now, we've got millions of readers, we've got content contributors all over the world, all funneling down to 5 senior editors, all under one brand. Then we launched Matador U, which again had very humble beginnings. It was just a travel writing course that you could take online. We've now launched our 3rd course. We've got travel writing, travel photography, and filmmaking. These are college-level courses. And what we're sort of the next step, we've invested about $200,000 into the platform in the last 6 months. And we're literally building an ecosystem for travel journalism. And what I mean by that is we want brands, destinations, DMOs, PR firms to actually come in, access the talent pool that we're building. We've got about 10,000 students in there by the end of the year, and it's got a lot of talent. So when you're looking for travel bloggers or people to send on trips, we want to actually bring you into the conversation and connect you with the content creators. So that's us. Let's talk about you. Just a quick show of hands, and thanks, you guys. Just keep coming. There's seats up in the front if you're just coming in. How many people here represent a DMO? Okay, how many PR? Okay, and journalists or bloggers? And then other. Okay, good mix then. So today I'm going to talk about strategies that we've used with our clients, with our DMO clients, and also that we've used just to build our own brand and our own traffic. So the number one thing that again is really important is that storytelling, digital storytelling, it is the new advertising. Content is the new advertising. When I started 6 years ago building the traffic, we got to a point where it was time to monetize our traffic. And I was just shocked by the fact that so many people in the industry were pouring all of their budgets into just banner ads. I think if all you're spending your money on is banner ads, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your budgets. It's not effective. So traditional ads alone don't work. The industry standard is actually 0.01. In other words, 1,000 impressions, you get 1 click. So you're shooting 1,000 arrows at the target and hitting it once. And I think a lot of those are probably accidental clicks. I think it's very rare, actually, that someone will click a banner ad and then they'll go on to buy an airplane ticket or even a pair of shoes. So content is really the way you can engage your audience in a meaningful way. And if you're a DMO or any kind of brand, you can actually pack that content with links to your partners. So we've had a ton of success. Finally, some of the DMOs that we worked with started listening to that, and we started doing entire campaigns that were based on content. So the first one we did was with Travel Montana, State of Montana Travel Association in the United States. And here, just to illustrate an example, the first deal that we did with Travel Montana was almost 4 years ago. And we did a suite of content that was articles about fly fishing, local food, nightlife, all the things that they wanted people to know about Montana. This search I did just before I came to Berlin when I was doing the deck. And this is one of the articles we did for that campaign that was 4 years ago. It's still #1 on Google for the keyword backpacking Montana. So that's really, it's a long-term investment. It's pretty powerful. So long after the banner ads and the social budget has been exhausted, you can have lasting value when your content is literally living forever on Google. So the second thing is that you really want to define your brand objectives when you set out to create content. I think for some people, that's going to mean defeating negative misconceptions about your destination or your brand. So one example of that would be like Latin America, certainly Africa or the Middle East. A lot of people think these places are dangerous to travel. So you really want to try and take that on head on. I remember when I started traveling to Colombia about 7 years ago, my friends and family are like, Colombia? You're going to get kidnapped. It's a drug war down there. And of course, it's not a drug war. It's a super safe country. Amazing, hospitable people, amazing food, great culture. So when we started working with that client, we addressed that head on. Instead of beating around the bush and talking about the food or the dancing, the first article we led with was that, okay, you obviously think Colombia is dangerous. It's actually not, and we're going to prove it to you. And that will get a lot of clicks because all the people who think it is dangerous are like, all right, this is challenging my conception of Colombia. So I'm going to click on this article and see if they can convince me. Another example is I went to Zimbabwe this last year. And that was the same thing, you know. People think of it as this chaotic, hectic place. It's actually an amazing travel destination to go to. So defeat those negative misconceptions head on, and then pack your brand objectives into content. So when you're doing that, I think there's this idea that you should be doing a blog every day. For most DMOs, that's completely unrealistic, right? Creating a really good blog that's going to reach a lot of people is a lot of work. So don't feel like you have to blog every single day. I would suggest doing one a week. The reason is that you'll find that 80% or more of your traffic will actually be coming from 20% or less of your content. So if you're just kicking a blog out the door every day that's just something for the sake of getting it up, very few of those are going to succeed and have a lot of traffic driven to them. Guys, come on in. There's seats in the front row if you guys just want to come on in so you don't have to stand the whole presentation. So I think it's a really good idea to take your time on content. Figure out a great viral idea for content around your destination, and then really take your time and make sure you have the best title, the best photo, and don't rush it. Another thing with banner ads is it still is pretty prevalent in the industry using banner ads. Even the campaigns that we do, content is the centerpiece, but we'll complement that with banner ads. There are ways to make banner ads smarter. What I mean by that is a lot of people will find a creative and they'll send it to their ad agency. Their ad agency will do a big media buy, and they won't test different creatives, and they'll go and run them all on a site like TripAdvisor, and it feels like, oh, this is a big, it's a big site, it's got a lot of people, that's what we want. Surprisingly, it's really not what you want. It's better to have super targeted banners, and what I mean by that is going after niche demographics. When we do banner ads on Matador, not only are we targeting geo, meaning that if the markets you're going after, say you're Hawaii, you're going after the West Coast markets of Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, we're only showing the banner ads in those markets. So we are geo-targeting the banner ad only to show up in those people that they're actually trying to reach. On top of that, we do a second layer of targeting where we're only showing it if say the Hawaii DMO wants to reach adventure travelers. We're only going to show the banner ad on the adventure content that we have on Matador in those markets. So you really want to be hyper-targeted with that stuff. Another problem that people do that I can't believe, someone will buy 10 million banners from us, banner impressions, which is a significant investment, and they give us one creative, meaning one banner ad. This is a horrible idea, and I'll illustrate sort of why. We obviously are promoting Matador U on Matador. So these are 6 creatives that we came up with in the last year. And instead of just going with one, because I thought they were all pretty nice, they're like all clean, they have similar messaging. I just want to show you how much it can swing. So these are the actual click-through rates. You see the top left, that's the industry standard, 0.01. Not great click-through rate. Then we added a human element that was 9 times more effective, the middle top. Then we did, people smiling. That improved it even more. Then we did this one, which was actually 20 times more effective than that first creative. So if we had sent this out, the top left, if we'd sent that out to a bunch of people and done millions of impressions, we would have gotten 1/20th of the total traffic and engagement. So make sure, if you've got a big ad agency working for you, make sure you tell them that you want multiple creatives, you want to test them, and you want to get, obviously favor the ones that are actually converting. So press trips are something I feel really strongly about. I think it's a super outdated model. Everyone does press trips, DMOs, they're a part of the industry. They're a great way to get journalists to experience the culture, the destination that you represent. But I think they need to be updated. So I did a search on Google to find an image that sort of articulated how I think of press trips. And this is the first one that came to mind. It really sums up a lot of what I think is wrong with press trips. This guy in the white jacket looks like he's about to commit suicide. But it's really, there are quite a few things wrong, so I'll just run through those. One, as a DMO, it seems like there's always this big rush. Oh, the trip's in only 2 weeks. We'll take any travel blogger. You're investing a lot of money in these trips. You should make them count and make sure the people that you send on these trips really have a large audience, a big social reach. Another thing that's problematic is that there's also always a handler. And usually it's a well-intentioned person from the DMO, but always having someone doing things for you, picking you up, giving you rides, you don't really experience the destination. Also, if you're traveling in groups, people want to do different things. Some people want to go to the arts and crafts fair. Some people want to climb a mountain. So avoid groups if you can. It's better to have, independent trips. And then they're just always overplanned. It's like breakfast at 7:30, on the bus at 8, and you're literally swamped with activities until you go to bed. If you've got people who are in town and they're trying to get great video, great photos, they need free time to explore, to get lost, to experience the culture, to meet, connect with local people. Oftentimes, this is not part of the program because there's just no free time. So what you get is you get a packaged experience. It's a packaged experience, and the content comes across as a packaged content, which is really not what you want. And at the end of the trip, the DMO sort of puts you on the plane, drops you off at the airport, and hopes for the best. Meaning that they really don't know if you're even going to write anything about them. So how we run press trips at Matador and how we're sort of fixing the model is that we keep it very independent. We ask for airplane ticket, rental car if possible, no handler necessary. We avoid groups, and we are sort of balancing the points of interest. Maybe you want them, the journalists, to connect, have lunch at a certain restaurant, or you want them to connect with this character that's a 94-year-old scuba diver or something and interview them. That's great. They can meet up with that person, but make sure there's a ton of free time in between those points of interest. And then we have a clear content expectation, meaning that before we even leave on the trip, the DMO has a pretty good idea about what we're going to write, what their brand objectives are, and how we can package that into viral content. And one final thought on press trips is that it seems like luxury is always a goal. That, if you shower people with stays in 5-star hotels, that they'll write a positive thing. Unless the trip is really only about luxury, that shouldn't be the centerpiece. You're there for the language, the food, the culture, the music. You're not there to have a little chocolate on your pillow at night at a 5-star hotel. So if you want to save money from a press trip, cut out some of the 5-star hotels and give the person a more authentic view of the country. So getting back to assessing reach, I know everyone is doing blogger trips, and I think that's great. Travel bloggers can get the word out about your destination. I would just caution you to be careful when choosing a blogger, and more specifically when evaluating the reach they have. It's very easy to go to a travel blogging site and see, wow, there's 40 comments on each of these articles, and there's 50 retweets. after closer examination, you may find that it's the same 40 people commenting on every single blog and the same 40 people retweeting every blog. And those people are actually other travel bloggers. And that's really not who you're trying to reach as a DMO, because travel bloggers are, by and large, just waiting for the next free trip to come along. They're not spending a lot of money on travel. So I would just ask people for the Google Analytics. Don't risk it. Don't try to guess if they've got a big audience, what their traffic might be. If they're a serious publication, serious blogger, they will have Google Analytics, and I don't think it's out of line to ask for the stats. Again, I'm not saying travel bloggers, completely bad idea. I'm just saying that you want to make sure you get the right ones who have established a real audience and can get your message out there. Everyone knows social media is important. That's no mystery at this point. It's not a fad. It's not going away. One thing that I find, though, is that a lot of DMOs and brands, they find that they think that all of the different platforms are sort of, they have one goal. It's like, oh, obviously to build more followers. But a lot of people don't realize just how different the different platforms are. So, for example, for us, Facebook drives a ton of traffic for us. That's one of the goals for Facebook. Whereas Twitter it's not good at driving traffic, but it is good at eavesdrop. You essentially have the ability to eavesdrop on about 500 million people. So we are constantly we spend more time on the search on Twitter than we do on just broadcasting our content. So we'll search for people who say travel writing course, and we'll find every week that some people are just offering it up, sharing, hey, I'm really interested in taking a travel writing course, if anyone knows one. It's really easy for us to reach out to that person and say, hey, we noticed you're into travel writing. You might want to check out Matador U. If you're promoting trips to Nepal, you could do a search every week, travel to Nepal or trip to Nepal on Twitter, and I bet you'd get a bunch of results about people who are saying, God, I'd love to plan a trip to Nepal. Does anyone have any ideas for me? It's really easy for you to reach out to them with an @reply, send them a photo essay. It doesn't have to be a hard sell about Nepal, about book with us, but it could just be anything on your site. Send them an engaging piece of content about Nepal, and that might be a new paying customer. Another thing that we're seeing a lot of demand for this year is ambassadors or influencers. These are people who have extended reach on the internet. And in response, we built our ambassador team about 6 months ago. And we're having great results with these people, working with brands, destinations. So they're a pretty incredible group. It's anything from a pro surfer, pro skier, to an activist, a National Geographic explorer, someone who writes for Surfer magazine, or someone who shoots for the Patagonia catalog. It's a pretty amazing group. If you're going to choose your own ambassadors, here's my advice. Obviously, they've got to be passionate and talented about something. But if they can't produce digital content around that passion, they're not of use to you, or they certainly aren't to us. If we just had a pro surfer on our ambassador team, there's not really much we can do with that person. But if they're a pro surfer and a filmmaker, they can produce awesome digital content about surfing, then it's very valuable. Also, obviously, you want large spheres of influence. Usually this is on social media. One of our photographers, Colby Brown, has 2 million people following him on social media. So he'll create a piece. We'll send him on a trip for a DMO. He'll create an article about the place, and then he'll just push it out on his own social channels, and it will blow up instantly. It'll be an instant success. Famous enough, but not too famous. So say that you're representing Canada, and or a province of Canada that's interested in promoting farm-to-table dining. You'll find that you've got people who are too famous. So say you get Anthony Bourdain. You land Anthony Bourdain, which would be great. But the only problem is that Anthony Bourdain, the guy has like 3 TV shows now. When is he ever going to have time to produce content for you? So you want people who are famous within their world, but not too famous. Obviously, video is huge. Every single deal we're doing this year, there's a huge video component. I would just, a couple words of advice, ditch the host. Host is for TV format. Even that is getting outdated, I think. And And then we just make music videos. We find a cool track, we do a bunch of B-roll, we splice in some interviews, and we keep them down under 2 minutes. I've seen people, DMOs, release a 10-minute video. No one's going to watch it. I'm sorry. On the web, you've got the attention span of a mosquito on the web. So 2 minutes or a little over 2 minutes, certainly nowhere near 10 minutes. If you are looking for talent, I would look on Vimeo. I would look on Matador U. I would look on YouTube. Production companies are typically really expensive, but there's tons of freelancers out there who do great video if you just look around. Picking great titles is really important. Obviously, you want your Google keywords that you're targeting to be in there. People love doing top 10s. I think people have what I call top 10 blindness, where they've just seen so many top 10s, they just don't even read the article anymore. But numbers are great. So put a number in the title. As you saw, I even did for this talk, 14 proven strategies. Numbers work. People love things with numbers. So avoid top 10s, but try 23. I cannot explain this. 23 is magic on the internet. We discovered this. We noticed it about 6 months ago. We've been packaging a lot of articles in 23. The first one, super creative repurpose items, 420,000 people just saw that just on Stumble Upon alone. The second one was a part of our deal with Intel that's still going, where we're creating content around Intel. 1.2 million people saw that article, in addition to 21,000 people sharing it on Facebook. So no guarantees, but try it out. 23 is pretty magic. And then just try to be original. People have seen almost everything on the web. So if you can, people have seen the roundups about beautiful beaches and stuff. If you can be original. When my editors come to me and they're like, hey, we've got an idea for a series, but it's kind of weird. We don't know if we should go with it. I say, let's try it. So that was the case with this one. It was kind of a different take, a humorous take on assessing like a culture and how learning about a culture. Germany was the first one, or Germans were the first one we did the article about. When something works, which this one went viral immediately, apply it again. And we just ran wild with this. We've done like 10 countries. Every single one is successful. You'll find that if you find a formula that works, you should keep using it all the way to Zimbabwe. And of course, this one was really easy for us. If you break down the social web, it's really all about photos. That's the most basic element of the social web right now, and that will continue. Facebook, people go on Facebook to look at photos. Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion because they nailed photos on a mobile phone. Pinterest, Tumblr, all of these, it's almost a paradigm shift about how we are communicating on the web. We're using more photos and visual elements than we've ever used before. So I would encourage you, if you're trying to build a following and you don't have time to write a blog every day, as I said, almost impossible, to post one photo a day every single day, and your following will grow much faster than it is now. So with that said, it's a ton of work, social media. So you really everyone's got a social media presence. You need to create a process. You need to get scientific about it. When are you posting on Facebook? If you're targeting U.S. consumers, are they even awake at that time? You want everything to be planned. If something's blowing up on Facebook, create an entire Pinterest board around it. Link one to the other. Make sure that all of the people are following you on all of these different platforms. So we've gotten, basically scientific on this and had some pretty great results with it. So you need to pay attention what's moving, what's succeeding on different platforms, and how can you translate that into momentum on your other ones. Social media, as many of you know, is a full-time job. It's really not something I would recommend doing sort of whenever you have time. Even if you have to have a part-time employee that you want to hire for social media, Matador, we have a full-time, that's all she does. She's really good at it. That said, beware of the ninjas, mavens, and the whores. The Ad Age came out with this study last week, and I guess they did a count back in 2009, how many people in their Twitter bio had the word social media maven, marketing expert, guru, freak, evangelist. There were 16,000. there are now, a couple years later, 181,000 people who are claiming to be some sort of social media ninja or maven. Most of these people, safe to say, are completely full of shit. So you should really think critically when you are hiring someone to run your social. Have they ever run multi-platform social for a large brand or destination before? And then set expectations. Where do you think we're going to be if we hire you in 2 months on Facebook? What's a number you're comfortable with? It's really important to hold them. Google Analytics, this is probably the biggest mistake that I've made in 6 years of being in business. I used to look at Google Analytics maybe once every 3 months. I'm now on there literally every day. There's a wealth of knowledge on analytics, and if you're not using it, you're flying blind, and you're missing out on some really huge opportunities. Things to look at are where you are losing people, big exit pages, where your traffic is coming from, where different time on site. So if you're spending on Twitter and Facebook, but people coming from Facebook are spending 4 times as long on your site, you should transfer the Twitter budget to Facebook. It will just blow your mind how much better informed you'll be with business decisions if you're paying attention to Google Analytics. If you're already comfortable with analytics, the next step, I would go to Optimizely. Write that site down, check it out. It's landing page A/B testing. So basically, they're serving up a different design page at the same time, and they're measuring which one's converting better. It's extremely powerful. We've been using it on Matador U, complete game changer. So if you're, especially on landing pages where you want someone to do something, to give you an email address, to press a button, to download a PDF, whatever it is. So really quick, I'll just fly through the takeaways. Hopefully you guys got these. Content is the new advertising. Do you have a content strategy? How can you pack those brand initiatives into the content you're creating about the destination? And then how can you make that into viral content? How can you package it in a way that's going to be shared? You've got a social media presence. How can you get scientific and make a process out of social media? And analytics, as I just said. So thank you guys so much. I think hopefully we have some time for some questions. And there look like there's some microphones here in the middle. So please fire away if you want to raise your hand or... Really? No questions? Come on, someone's got to have a question. What's that? Yes, I believe so. The question was, is the presentation available, the slides? I'm pretty sure it is, somewhere on ITB. I guess, yeah, that should be made available. Question over here?
Yeah, where are you based?
I split time between New York and San Francisco. No more questions? Oh, there's one.
Thank you for your presentation. I come from Cape Town and everybody's on Twitter. So we're trying to market on Twitter. But are there any new trends that you're seeing? We don't look at G+. Are there in certain markets characteristics like G+ is bigger in Europe, US? What's the big game changer in Asia?
Yeah, I think generally G+ it's not geographical. I would not write Google+ off yet. Google's is extremely determined to make Google+ work and successful, especially with SEO. You'll notice that with the new algorithm update, some of the top results are your Google+ page. So don't give up on Google+ yet. I think it's worth investing in. Obviously, it hasn't been a runaway success like Instagram was, but I think there are certain, it's not geographical, but there are certain sort of groups of people, like photographers, for example, huge on Google+. In terms of Twitter, I think that if you're trying to grow your following there, I would suggest experimenting with sponsored tweets with some sort of paid strategy, but I know that we tested it and we decided it was too expensive for what we were getting. I hope I answered your question there. Anyone else? No other questions? Okay, how much time do we have? Do we have more time?
Half an hour.
We have half an hour more? Wow. All right, what do you guys want to talk about? I was actually worried about not having as much time, so I guess we started early, and we had more time than I thought. Any other questions? Yeah, in the middle. Oh, can you talk in the microphone so everyone can hear you?
How do you think Google Author Rank will affect content marketing and how that will affect social media?
Sorry, again?
The new Google Author Rank.
Okay, yeah. I think that, Google it's sort of you're always playing catch up with Google and their different ranks, their different algorithm updates. There's really no way to be prepared because you don't know what they're going to do. Google typically they're very fast to punish people who are doing things that they don't like, and they're very slow to reward people for doing things that they do like. What I can tell you about Google and SEO is that there used to be, over the last 5 years, it was you just flood the article with keywords, and you could really trick the algorithms. All I can say is the whole thing is getting smarter by the day. So we just focused on creating great content. That was our SEO strategy. A lot of people in the travel industry, friends of mine who are running companies, they had all these black hat, fancy Google SEO tactics, and I just never really bought it. I was like, I don't know if that's good. I don't want to screw us over sometime. And they came out with a Panda update, just crushed everyone. Google Panda came out, literally put a lot of these guys out of business. Their traffic overnight was slashed in half. So I'd say the best advice I can give for Google and SEO: create great content that's really engaging and it's just real. Don't try to fool the search engines. If you have success fooling them now, it might not last forever. And as I said, they're quick to punish. When they come out with a new algorithm, they might just crush you and your traffic could completely dry up overnight. So create engaging content that gets shared on social media. The Montana article was successful because it went viral. When something goes viral and is shared a lot, it gets a lot of inbound links. And that's really the baseline for how Google ranks all web pages, is who is linking to them and how many people are linking to them. So that's why that article from Montana is still #1, because we got all of those inbound links. So if you can create things that are successful on social media, you will have success with SEO. Yeah.
Thanks. For the press trips, what I understood from you is that you're recommending ditching the group trips and having them on individual basis. So what do you do with them? Just give them the ticket and the map and let them wander around?
I know, it's hard to get used to that idea because that's so far from what we do now. But yes, that's exactly what I think. I think that, you can't always avoid groups. We're sending a journalist to Dublin for St. Paddy's Day. Obviously, there's going to be tons of people from all over the world on that group, and it would have been unrealistic for us to ask for a separate itinerary for our filmmaker. But we have looked at that itinerary very closely, and we're like, Scott's not going to make that or that or that. He's going to be wandering around getting interviews, connecting with local people, getting the best photos. So I think it's a balance, right? It's like, don't over-plan a group trip. Make sure you at the very least, give everyone a ton of free time where they can just walk around and explore the city, because that's really the travel experience that the people they're writing for are going to have. The people who read that article and they come to that country, they're not going to have the handler picking them up from the airport. So it's good to give them a little serendipity, a little exploration in there. One case study, we did a deal with Tourism Australia, the Northern Territories in Tasmania, and they wanted a big focus on photography and video. And, instead of sending a whole crew down there and having a handler, we were like, all right, he needs a plane ticket, a rental car, and then, like you said, a map. And like, you're sleeping here tonight, maybe you want to go to this restaurant on this night, you want to meet up with this guy, and he's an indigenous Aboriginal, and he'll take you through the outback. So you can have those points of interest. But yeah, if you can get used to that idea, I say cut them loose with a rental car, and the content will be better. It's all coming from this side, guys. You guys have any questions over here? Oh, over here.
Hey, Ross. I endorse, actually, the setting people loose. I think that's a great idea. Can you break down sort of what a content package with Matador looks like? Like how many posts when you work with a destination, how many posts are in the deal? Is there social with it? Like what does a deal kind of look like?
Sure, good question. So it's a scalable thing. We've got packages that cost $20K. We've got packages that are $300K. It all depends on the amount of content, the amount of journalists. We did our biggest deal ever, at least for 2012. Last year with Canadian Tourism Commission, we ran 25 trips up to Canada to explore the very best things that Canada had to offer. It's worth noting, before I go into the specifics of the packages, that I think that this whole idea of content being the new advertising, it's really important to mention that transparency is the new advertorial. In other words, we're not writing this stuff and giving Canada this amazing review of the best place to go ever, and then not even disclosing that we're working with Canada. I think that's a really bad idea. Instead, we go out to our audience and we say, we think Canada kicks ass. It's got everything that you as Matador readers love. It's got amazing cities, incredible food, outdoor, nightlife, wildlife, adventures. So we're going to create content around the very best experiences Canada has to offer, and we hope that you enjoy. So on every article there's a disclaimer. This was produced in partnership with our partnership with Canada, Canadian Tourism Commission. In terms of the packages, yes, social is a big part of it. The content can range from, obviously, producing original videos is a lot more expensive even for us because we've got to send our best people and pay them pretty well than just writing articles. But we have sort of gotten this whole thing down to a science where we send the journalist usually on a very independent trip. We are creating content the whole time. He or she is sending in photos, which we're blasting out across our social channels to sort of get people excited for the content. Then the content begins the minute they get back. Sometimes if there's some post-production video editing, it'll get published a couple weeks later. But it's a scalable process that involves definitely a big foothold in social and just trying to get that content in front of as many people as we possibly can. Yeah. So the question was, how large is our network? And when we push out the articles, is it only on Matador or is it everywhere else? Like I said, we are doing about 2 million unique visitors per month right now. It's bigger than any other Condé Nast travel property. And then we have publishing partners. So we've got partners at CNN, Google. So our content is the secondary distribution from our partners. So we try and get, especially for clients or people that we're working with on sending people on trips, we try and get that in front of as many people as possible. There's a question over here on the side. Oh, yeah.
Yes, I was wondering from a writer's point of view whether, what the kind of payers your bloggers are getting or your writers, or is it like a content mill type of concept? So again, it's a sliding scale. If someone just sort of is a walk-in and they say, hey, I'd like to write an article for Matador, and they have, they haven't been published in any really predominant publications. Usually it's as little as $25 is the lowest we'll go. If someone has photos and they're extremely talented and we just want those photos on the site, we'll pay up to $400, $500 for a photo essay. And then for talented filmmakers, we're in the thousands because it's just there's so few people who are capable of shooting and editing, and there's just a ton more work that goes into that. So we pay people pretty well who are talented filmmakers. 1 second, then.
My first question you answered already, so that's why I keep on with the second. And I just wanted to ask if you plan to go maybe also to the Baltic Sea region, because when I entered your webpage, very interesting articles, but I didn't find any information about the Baltic Sea. And that is one project we are working together with the European Commission now with a strategy to promote it a little bit more. Maybe we can work together.
Absolutely. We should talk afterwards. I'm always looking for, and I like hearing that because I'm always looking for what I call holes in our content. I want there to be, we've got over 11,000 professionally written and photographed articles now, but there are still places where we're short on content or patchy. So that's great. Let's fill the void.
Another question. Is your network you're focusing on the US alone, or are you global in terms of readers and followers?
So in terms of the flagship site, matadornetwork.com, we are about 56% US. US is like the biggest stronghold. After that, UK, then Canada, Australia. We're mostly focused in big cities. So New York, number one. London is right on its heels. San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Sydney, Toronto is really big. So most of our audience is concentrated in large cities. But yeah, North America is our biggest.
The other question for independent journalists, when you get them on a trip for a destination, usually how many articles do you expect them to write? You know, the first thing they do, they write a good article about the destination. Do you expect another one, a third one, a fourth one, or just,
So our process is basically that, again, this is like with the content communication with the DMO. We want them to really have a clear expectation of what they're going to get out of it. So we will typically, if it's a 1 week trip, we ask the journalists to produce at least 2 feature articles about the trip. And we actually let the DMO know, okay, this is what we're thinking. We've seen the itinerary. There's 90% chance these are going to be 2 of the titles. If they have an amazing experience and they want to do a photo essay on top of that, that's great. We'll pay them for that. We'll publish that as well. But at the very least, 2 features for a week.
Hi. Are you aiming to localize your content at some point?
Where are you?
Here.
Oh, hi. So what do you mean by localize?
Translating it for other markets and other languages, one non-English speaking.
Yeah, we actually have a Spanish site that we unfortunately got a really good start with, and we haven't had the time and manpower to continue to build it, but that is a part of our plan probably later this year or in 2014. I think the ones we're eyeing are continue building Spanish, Portuguese, and German, actually, because Germans are huge travelers.
And a range of clients. So is it travel companies, or where do they come from? People that you kind of do
in terms of the translators?
I mean, in terms of who do you supply your content to? Who uses or reuses your content at the end of the day?
Most of our content is just published on Matador Network. You can think of us like a big online travel magazine. So we'll push it out through CNN, to Google, to a bunch of big distributors and portals. But really, most of the action is happening on Matador Network. And so the content that we're creating, it isn't really used for tour operators or anything like that. Maybe we'll have a partnership with a big tour operator, and we'll be producing content specifically for them. So they'll want us to distribute it on Matador, but they'll also want to use it on their site, and that's obviously fine with us, whatever people want to do. I've got one over there.
5 minutes.
Okay. 5 more minutes, guys, if you have any questions.
I think there's a good point brought up about your Spanish site, and it seems like most of your content right now is in English. Is that correct?
Yes.
How much do you see an impact in different writing styles for different countries? So I'm also American. A lot of the stuff that you're saying jives with me, but have you guys done any studies on how that works with, people in Germany who can read English? Does it have the same impact? Are they looking for the same things?
We do see that, which countries have a large English-speaking population because, as I said, the vast majority of our content right now is in English. So we do have a lot of traffic in Germany. We have a ton of traffic in India just because the internet penetration in India is just so huge. To your point, I think one thing that we've learned with the Spanish site is that you can't just take something that was successful and just translate it to Spanish. There are different idioms and cultural things that needs to be addressed. So
when we're going to do that move to other countries and other languages, we're actually going to be hiring an editor on the ground in each of those countries, because just doing translation is not going to cut it, I think. Yeah.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you do any translations for like British English or Canadian English where they might say lift instead of elevator?
We don't. If we had the time to do that, that would be amazing. But that's too detailed. But we do see, we do comment on the different sort of idioms and subtleties of different languages, and I think those pieces always seem to do really well. Yeah.
What's your advice for DMOs in terms of qualifying and vetting journalists that they invite?
So yeah, I would say number one is check the Google Analytics of that journalist. Or if they are going to write for a different publication than their own, if they're not a blogger but they're going to write for some other publication, ask for a real Google Analytics fact sheet for that publication. And then be really clear with them. Make sure that they've read the itinerary. Make sure that your expectations are in line with theirs in terms of what they're going to produce. The whole, send them home and wait and see just makes no sense to us. So we are always trying to be clear when someone offers to send one of our journalists somewhere. Typically, we're like, okay, what are your goals for this campaign? What do you guys want to get out of this? And then we'll try and find the right journalist. Also, you should match them up with the trip itself. So if it's an adventure trip, you don't want to send a foodie writer, right? So you really want to find the person that's a perfect fit and that has the reach and the social media reach and all that. I guess maybe one more question and then we're probably done. Got.
Do you have a profile of your readers?
Yes, I mean we have a media kit. So we typically, when a DMO contacts us, we send them the media kit if they're interested in working with us. That's got all of the information on where their traffic is from, what language people speak, all the products that we offer, and then we usually go from there, get on the phone. Yep. All right, well, thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it.